Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another live with Coaching and Flourish podcast. I'm your host, John. We're here with Ashley. Hello, hello. Let's get it started. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
Yes, happy Tuesday. Okay, so I was thinking about hope theory, John. We haven't talked about hope theory in a hot minute. Like it's been a few months. And so I thought that would be really cool if you could share a little bit about that and just like the question around how does hope impact our lives and our future, like our present and our future, really.
Yeah, it's amazing when you start to see the intersection between the theory of positive psychology, applied positive psychology, and then also what's happening in the coaching world and what coaching, like what we see practically when we're working with a client, and then the steps that people make. What it comes down to, I mean, the general basis of hope theory is that it looks at decision making, and the theory of it is that if people have higher degrees of hope, they are more likely to have higher degrees of resilience, persistence, make decisions that are positive for the future. And what comes down to is it breaks apart like decision making into our assessment of the available pathways that are open to us, the resources that are open to us, and then also our character traits, who we are, our ability to learn. So it makes a distinction between our inner worlds and our outer worlds. And that's a really useful, like even that distinction is a really useful one to make, because I think most people focus on the outside and they don't consider, okay, what do I need to learn about myself? How can I manage my inner world to match the degree of the challenge in that external world? And hope theory provides a framework for that, or at least a theoretical framework of, okay, if we do these things, then this we can look at these different directions. Coaching excels at helping clients explore that inner world. And I just did hopped in a class this morning, and we just did a simple exercise. It was centered around best possible selves, future self, things like that. And it went so well, and it was so simple. And it didn't come up with an action step, but it did come up with an internal perspective that changed everything. Like you could just feel it. And it was one of those moments where it wasn't about pathways. It wasn't about action steps or even external resources. It was really about an internal perspective shift, an idea of who my client was on a character basis and strengths, and how connected he is to his future self. That's what made the difference. And hope theory gives a map for that, and coaching allows it to be applied. And so it's definitely in the space, but I think in terms of the training, hope theory gently fades into some foundational background, and then all the tools that we provide rest on that. And so the training really is about tool gathering and using the tools and the practical application, but there is a really strong, robust theoretical basis that's operating in the background. Mm-hmm. That's how I see it. I mean, that's how it played out this morning. I think that's how it really plays out in our training.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. This next here, I can turn off this this unit here. I know it's like, no, I was going to turn it off, but I forgot.
Oh. Okay, it's not bad. It's not very loud.
There we go. That should help a lot.
Cool. The next question kind of ties into this a little bit. So someone had mentioned, sent in a question on they tend to be naturally bent towards pessimism and having a little bit more of a negative outlook. And so their question was, how can I change my outlook?
Yes. So the first thing in change I found is to take away judgment. Mm-hmm. So it's to take away the judgment of, okay, this is bad. This is negative, something I need to get away from. And really shifting it towards what's useful about a pessimistic outcome. And if it really is a strength, I mean, that could be a strength. Why not? Mm-hmm. What if it is? How is pessimism a strength? How can you use it like a strength? Mm-hmm. So even just asking yourself that question, it opens up a tiny window that removes the judgment of what's wrong with me as a person. And that what's wrong with me as a person, everyone wrestles with that in some way or another,
Mm.
or at least myself included, all the clients I've ever worked with, all the people I've ever worked with.
Yeah.
It's the ubiquitous human condition, and that that's a hard thing to deal with. And so what I think a coaching session does initially, what coaching does is it takes away that judgment just a little bit, and it offers a way to become curious about it. And what I found is that if you take away the judgment and you become curious with something, it tends to shift. It's not like coaching gives this thing where, okay, like we're going to find the root cause of pessimism, and it has something to do with parental messaging, and if we change this parental messaging, then we're going to get something different, and we found the source. It's not quite that, like that. It's more around, okay, right here now in present tense, where is the pessimism coming from? And when you sit with that, it starts to shift, and you go, okay, it comes from this. This is what it's really after. Let's say it's really after safety. Okay, let's sit with safety. How does safety show up in the actions you take, in the kinds of questions you ask, the kinds of decisions you make? That kind of work. From there, you start to really design, how do you want to be with this? And that's an individual question for the coach to ask themselves and to really sink into. Yeah, it would be a lovely question to listen to the answer to, and to see what comes up, and to stay with curiosity. I really do think curiosity is going to help humanity, especially empathetic curiosity. Curiosity for the sake of other is so powerful. I would encourage this coach to sit in that space with a coach and see what comes up.
Yeah, I think that is amazing, and I love this idea of reading the judgment and the curiosity right away, because our inner critic is so tough sometimes, and so being curious with it. And it's, there's a couple things I was thinking of too. Even just the simple things of, what are my daily habits? What are the things that I'm putting in my mind? So, because it can be as simple as, what does that say? Like garbage in, garbage out. Like, if you're constantly listening to negative things, or surrounding yourself with, I don't know, like news on 12 hours a day, it's going to be really hard to find optimism, because you're going to be surrounded by a lot of hardship. And, so what are you putting in order to also stir within and be able to release good things too? So it can be something as simple as that. And even just taking time to be grateful. And I've talked about this actually, like one of the last Coaching to Flourish podcast, and I know you know much more about the science behind gratitude, but gratitude is incredibly powerful as well. And so I think looking at it as a strength, and all the things you're mentioning is so good. And if there is you're like, oh, I really still want to grow in this, looking at what are you grateful for? Even just 3 things a day starts to really transform your mindset, and helps you notice even more things throughout the day that are inspiring, or that you can be curious about, or that feel, like they connect to you. So it's really cool. There are just simple practices and simple things to be able to incorporate every day, even just a few minutes. It can just taking a half an hour a day to be able to look at, what am I going to put in my mind and my body today that is good, and what am I going to express out that is good, or let stir within that is good. So yeah, that's cool. I liked that question a lot. What to do when a client lacks self-awareness?
Yeah, it's open-ended, isn't it? Like, what is that self-awareness? It feels like one of those so open-ended questions. But let's break it down. In the different types of self-awareness that I see sometimes clients don't have.
Yeah, that's great.
I think the first one is I work with clients who I ask questions, and then it doesn't seem like there's much there. Like they just don't know how to answer it. It feels like you get a lot of I don't knows, let's say. And I think for me, it's just sitting there in the silence and the patience and leaning into pause and just letting them sit with it. And I think there is a conditioning that we get from a traditional school system, which always asks questions looking for a right answer. And so people get concerned when they're being asked a question that there is no right answer to. They're not used to that. And then they think that, well, maybe there is a right answer to this, and I need to find it so I can be so let me find the right answer and tell you, so that I pass the test. Sometimes clients, I think this was new to me as a coach when I was experiencing this. They would answer questions in a way that I think was trying to impress me as a coach, rather than be authentic or real to them. And that's interesting to me. Where you get this sense, and I can see where it comes from. Even, students would do it, adults would do it too. I think we want our coaches to be impressed with us, which is a natural feeling. But you can, if you're aware of it as a coach, you can start to sniff it out, and it feels different. It feels like, wait, this is, I thought the action step you took last week, wait, that's not been done. Stuff like that. You get clues really quickly from your clients that way. So we'll call it self-awareness due to education conditioning. The way around that is just, again, speaking directly to it and telling your client, do you know right or wrong answers? Go for it. I'm not judging this. And clients will throw out a couple test balloons. They might say something that is a little on the edge of something, and then they're just they're testing you. They're going to say, are you as a coach, are you going to try to correct this or offer advice to this or not accept this, or are you going to go with it? And for instance, let's say a coach says, I'm feeling like the pessimism thing. Like, are you going to judge me as a pessimist and give me things to do, or are you just going to sit with me and empower me and stay curious about me, true, like authentic, real me sitting here, not the me that I'm trying to be or want to be, And that's a profound conversation. That's a profound connection. I feel very strongly our society needs more of that kind of connection. It's really what, where I look at the academic, especially in the academic life coaching world, this is a movement to bring those kind of questions and connections into education. So that's one thing, right? Two, let's call it self-awareness due to just not seeing the feedback. Like in this comes up to me more in the executive world, also health and wellness too, but where I have a client who, let's say that they are just causing all sorts of work issues. And at the initial outset of the contract, their supervisor or whoever is also helping set up the coaching says, these are the things that they need to work on from feedback from people. And sometimes a coach, the client just might completely just not even know. I mean, their feedback, just, their awareness of, oh, wow, okay, this is what's happening in my life. This is the feedback of people around me. They just might not know about that. That is, I think, trickier in some ways because it's hard to sometimes share feedback from other people. And you have to do it in a way that's designed to empower empower your person, not disempower them by somehow feeling like people are telling on them. It's more of a design. I found, though, that the best way is to be direct. Direct in, this is the feedback that I got from other people that you need to be aware of, but I also understand and direct that it's only feedback from other people, that it's information. And it doesn't mean it's truth. It just means it's information. What do we want to do with it? How do you want to react to it? So those are the two things I see. Let's say two different types of self-awareness that comes up. trying to think of other types. I'm sure there are more, but those are the two that come to my mind really quickly.
The first reminds me of just helping a client feel known and cared for,
Right.
which is really powerful. Yeah, because we are, I mean, even my recommendation on gratitude, I'm like, we're so accustomed to try to fix or like change or, I'm like, well, yeah, it's good.
There's usually, in all of these things, the coaching answer is there's usually more value in using the challenge to create an insight than solving the initial challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And once you really sink into that as a coach, and that's the beauty of coaching, because I feel like that's not necessarily the case in other helping professions, like, counseling or even consulting. I feel like solving the challenge might be the very best way you can provide value, but coaching goes different, and this is where I feel like it runs parallel. It's not a substitution for, it's in addition to these other helping fields.
Mm-hmm.
And but I mean, I love it. I love this stuff because I love that perspective. I feel freedom as a coach to be able to like exactly pinpoint these things for people and really empower them with it. And when you approach feedback or you approach things that are happening in their life and you're bringing awareness to the person from this perspective, it feels empowering.
Mm-hmm.
If you're bringing feedback or trying to raise awareness from a perspective of there's a deficiency here, there's something wrong, that feels negative and that's not going to go well. Yeah. So a lot of it has to deal with your perspective as a coach. Clients can feel that. They can feel it in the energy behind your questions.
How would you encourage a coach then to step into that space? What questions do they need to be asking themselves, either in learning or preparation for coaching or within a coaching session?
Yeah, this is good. These are great questions, Ashley. So what I've seen, there's almost like a path, a pretty well-known path that coaches travel when they're in coach training. And a couple of milestones I see is when people can really make sure they step into empathetic listening, when they're truly listening from the perspective or from the standpoint of someone else, the person they're listening to. That helps. I can't tell you how much that helps because it gets people out of listening to their own narrative. They start listening to their client's narrative. And when you do that, things pop up that you couldn't necessarily hear otherwise. And I mean, we go in, so that's a big deal. Like making sure that you're listening empathetically rather than listening from your own self perspective. From there, there's also there's a tug, and I felt it very, very much when I was starting my coaching career. There's a tug to try to prove the value of coaching by proving the value of the decision or the action step that your client is going to take or that you design in the coaching session. So I felt like, I need to make sure every single session my client has either made a significant decision, had some sort of life-altering thing happen, or have some huge action step that if they take this action step, this is way more valuable than the money they're paying for this coaching session. I think I did that for 2 years. I mean, I think I was in that perspective for 1.5 years, 2 years before it really sunk in. The value of a coaching session really comes down to the insights that clients have about them, learning about themselves or the situation or a character trait. Like that exploration is absolutely priceless because it doesn't just affect the challenge at hand, but it affects every aspect of their life. And so when you start to lean into that, then it starts to really feel like, so, I mean, the milestone is both of those, you're listening level 1, you're not listening level 1, you're listening level 2. And when you are listening level 1, you can recover. 2, you stop trying to prove the value of coaching by having every session be this amazing thing, but you're really after insight. Then it just makes it so much easier for you to lean in as a coach and say, okay, I know I'm capable of raising this client's awareness. I'm capable of helping my client learn these things by just remaining curious. it just feels like space, like freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the class I was looking at this morning, the practice client, he said, this feels like space. Like I had this before the coaching session, I had a very clear idea that and it was around fear. Like the fear that I was feeling was a problem, and I wanted to get rid of it. After I realized the fear, it's not a problem. It goes hand in hand with confidence, and there's a certain rhythm to it. There's a certain cadence to fear, confidence, but to make friends with both of them. And that shift, right? Like how, like you can't tell someone to do that. You have to feel it. Can you imagine going into a session like, no, this is how you do it. This is how you deal with fear and confidence. It's great. It sounds good. And yeah, I'll do it too. I'll borrow that insight. And that insight from him in that session, he knew that internal world that he had to navigate to get from beginning of session, end of session. It's that kind of awareness that you can bring out as a coach simply by staying in that level 2, trusting the process, and stop action hunting. Like stop action questions. Stop it. Don't do it. Just release fixing, release action, release, release. And then instead insight hunt. Be with, feel, just ask, you'll get a series of default questions, that you can ask if you're stuck as a coach. And if you have a really strong pocket of default questions, maybe 5 or 6, with confidence that you can truly listen to your client. Just listen, hear their narrative. It will surprise you. You will hear things that you will hear things in their narrative that no one else in their life has ever heard. And when that happens, you can then ask a question about it, and they will go further than they've ever gone in their life. That's the coaching process, and that's what we're after. So yeah, those are the 2, maybe 3 milestones, depending if you want to count that third one as one, which I think kind of feels like one, that I see coaches take when they're just starting out with the coaching process.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's fun. I love this stuff. I really do.
Yeah, that's incredible. Oh man. I'm like, I don't even know there's any more to add. Like, that's just so good.
Let's just do it. Yeah, let's have a coaching session right now. Like, what it's and our whole team. I mean, our whole team is coach trained, so it's like, it's so cool. It's so cool. Some people have paused because they're busy, but I will get them coach trained. Everyone at CTEDU coach trained.
Wait, what did you just say, Amber?
We're going to get it's a mission of mine to have everyone at coach training EDU coach trained.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's changed my life. It just personally, even before joining coach training EDU, but working in the environment where everybody is coach trains and operating out of that mindsets and skill is completely different. People know that too when I tell them what I do. They're like, what is that like to work at a place like that? And I'm like, yeah, it's different in the best way. So
it's funny too, because I feel like, it's interesting too, working in a family where both people are coach trained, because it's just different. You can be like, what, this is where this is coming from. There's a precision, and there's a precision with curiosity, and I have. It's lovely. It really is. Because it's different. It's different from a precision around advice giving, and I really want to shift from a larger movement standpoint to shift away from advice and knowledge as being considered the most valuable resource. It's valuable for sure, but curiosity and empowerment are more valuable, and it's amazing when you can lean into those. Because what happens is you get to a question, you get to an insight that there is no way as a consultant you could ever have come up with that yourself and given that to your client. And clients, when they experience it, they know it, and they realize this coaching has absolutely changed my life. It might be a slow burn, but it gets there. And when it gets there, they feel it. And that's why I coach.
That's awesome, John. Thank you. These are cool.
These are
These are very
fun.
cool topics.
It's so fun. Yeah, and it's not like I know it's all rainbows and butterflies and yay, I love flowers, I love gardening, I love horticulture. And there's also an element of, yeah, there's doom and gloom, there's getting in the muck, there's getting your hands dirty, there's really digging into the soil, all of that too. So I just want to be sure I temper this extreme, rosy picture with, yeah, it's going to be hard. I mean, it's hard at times to establish this, grow your own thing, all the challenges of that. But these tools do help, and they do get us there. All right, we have to stop. I know I feel like it went fast, but
So
it
fast.
always does.
Well, thanks for letting me join you today.
Ashley,
Thanks
you're
everybody
amazing.
for being here. We look
Appreciate
forward to
you.
seeing you next Tuesday.
Yes, thank you everyone. Thanks for watching these, and we'll see you next week.